my name is Kathy Nelson. I am the CEO and founder of the Photo Managers, which is a worldwide association of people who help people with their photos and get paid for it and have amazing businesses. I met Jennifer last April at our Orlando conference. She came with Mileo, or part of Mileo, which is a great software solution for photo organizing, which Jennifer will talk to you about. And we had an immediate connection. I think the same passion my passion has always been to help small business owners, in particular women, but we're happy to help men as well, do something with help clients who are overwhelmed with their photo collection. I started the Photo Managers in 2009, so it's been quite some time before that I had any idea that this would become the point and shoot camera in everybody's home or in everybody's hand. So we have a lot of proof of concept, but Jennifer had, unbeknownst to me, been doing this work on her own and discovered us and said, oh my gosh, every professional photographer on the planet needs to know about this because there's so much revenue opportunity and it's a tough market out there, as we all know these days. So nothing more you need to hear from me. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer and let her take it away. And then there's plenty of time for Q&A. We'll do live Q&A, but also drop your questions in the chat. We'll answer them as we go along, but we'll definitely give you time to ask every question that you want. And this is being recorded, so you can re-listen to it again. So Jennifer, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to click slideshow, because when I do slideshow, I can't see my face. Let's see.
Oh,
there we go. Okay, hi everybody. I'm Jennifer Loomis. I'm coming at you from Seattle, Washington, where it feels like it's been raining for like 5 months. It's me and my head of security, Edison, who's my dog. You can see him behind there. And we're in my office. So Kathy sort of explained a little bit about this. Photo organizing is exploding, and I want to get the word out for photographers. Because photographers, this job is made for you. Home organizers are doing this, and they haven't touched photographs, and you guys have. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that. So who the heck am I? I have been a professional photographer for almost 30 years, more than 30 years, actually. I hate to think about that. I was I've called the pioneer in the maternity photography genre. You can see a copy of my cover of my book on there. I got my start from Annie Leibovitz's studio in New York. I'm a published author. I'm an educator. I've been teaching photography off and on for 30 years. At one point, I had 5 studios. I've appeared in online, print media, TV, radio, blah, 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 more than 100 times. I was on the board of Freestyle Photographic. And at the peak, my revenue for my portrait photography business was about $500,000. So what I'm here today to talk to you about is not portrait photography, but it's to talk to you about photo organizing. Kathy was correct. I stumbled into this accidentally 5 years ago. A client of mine came and called me. It was like, I am so frustrated. I cannot find any pictures. We have 4 kids. Can you help me? I almost said no, because I was like, oh God, I don't really want to get involved in this, but I said yes. So, and I want to talk about why, and I want you guys to come walk with me through some of these statistics. So 1.1 trillion photos were taken in 2020, 1.39 trillion in 2021, 1.1.5 trillion in 2022. So you can see the trajectory, 1.72 trillion in 2023. It's projected it's going to be 1.96 trillion photos taken in 2026. So what does that mean? That means between 4.1 billion and 4.7 billion photos are taken every day. That's nuts, right? That's nuts. And that's all over the world. The United States is the largest market. I didn't include that stat here, but I was looking at like how many photos people take a second, and it's that many, and it's like 1.4 in the United States, and everybody else is a little bit lower. So this is sort of how it's rising. We're looking at a 14 to 15% overall increase every year. So what does that mean? That means that people and businesses need your help because they can't find anything. And with the visuals that people need for social media, for online, for websites, for annual reports, for newsletters, I mean, there's a host of things that people are looking for, and they can't find it. And there's nobody that's trained to do it. But guess what? Photographers, you are. Okay, so let's talk about who hires a photo manager, okay? And all you guys, if you have questions, you can toss them in the chat. We do have time for a Q&A at the end. And so someone's going to be watching that. Okay. And we'll get to your questions too. So who hires a photo manager? Okay. So there's individuals, right? Like my photography clients, downsizing baby boomers. Do the kids want all those musty photo albums and loose prints and all that stuff up in the attic? They want some of them, but they don't want all of them. Busy families with kids, they want to be able to find their images. They want to be able to put together special events, like special projects for weddings and funerals, right? Someone who's lost a loved one and needs help with these memories. We have a client right now, and he lost his wife 7 years ago and hasn't been able to look at any of the photos. And that's what we're doing. In fact, behind me, you'll see some of his stuff. There's also a huge opportunity in businesses. Small, medium, and large businesses have been reaching out to us to say, we had a Taekwondo studio in LA say, we have like 60 boxes of photos from all of our competitions, and we want these digitized. You know, a large business in Colorado that has multiple franchises reached out to us, okay? So universities and departments at universities, colleges and schools. I had a big job with the University of Washington Department of Global Health, organizing all their pictures. Now there's a lot to go in a Department of Global Health because certain pictures you cannot use. So there's a lot of opportunity to build a photo database or a photo library for these types of institutions. And you can go in, walk right in, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is going to give us relief. Nonprofits as well, governmental organizations as well, okay? Any business that has a visual presence, and I would argue that's all of them. So be thinking about what you want, like what's your niche? Universities are really a good one to start with if you're not sure about having your clients. So I wanted to put together a little bit talk about potential revenue, because I wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't think this could help your bottom line. My goal is to help photographers. You guys, we have slow periods. You can do this in a slow period. Or if you're exhausted and tired and your body is falling apart, like mine, I have sciatica, you can transition out and do this. I happen to still be photographing, so there's a little bit, I do both. So I just pulled my numbers just to see so I could talk to you guys and informed and educated. And we have doubled our revenue year after year. And for the past 2 years, we have been in the 6 figures, and this is with minimal effort. I have not had a marketing plan. I have not, like, I put a couple ads in a small newspaper in the town where I live. I live on an island because I wanted to support community journalism, you know, and this is with minimal effort. Okay. That's what I'm telling you. And it's not just me. There's lots of photographers who are starting to offer this service. We're seeing them at the Photo Managers Conference. Okay. There's a huge intersection of skills and training that goes with organizing photos and being a photographer. So I want you guys to get the leg up, because a lot of home organizers are getting on this and they don't really understand what we do about pictures, how to cull them, what's a good picture, and things like that. Okay, let's see. All right. Something's going wonky. Okay, why are they getting into it? Because it's easy. Okay, so I sat down and I thought about, why did I do this? Well, it was easy. Okay, you're familiar with the equipment needed, camera scanning. Okay, photographers, you know how to manage photographs because you have a business, right? You know how to find them. You know, how do you name them? Probably year, month, day. You know, and so there's some continuity here. You love photographs and telling stories. You love your own photographs, but let's look at somebody else's photographs, right? Like I was just looking at a client, more her stuff is behind us. And I was like, she's been a photo client of mine for years. And I have an example. She just handed me all these pictures. And I was like, wow, what an amazing life she's had, right? That's what photos are for us. You know, your clients who you've photographed, they know you. They have your trust. I mean, they're going to hand you photos from when they're in their 20s, you know, like I was pulling through all this stuff and, you know, she was topless in some beach in some country, you know, things like that. Like they know you, they know you're not going to like do anything lascivious with that. You have slow seasons, right? Right now it's kind of a slow season for photographers. I'm hearing it all over. A lot of photographers work outside. They don't have a studio. So that's kind of like, yeah, weddings, at least where I live, summer is the best time for weddings. So this is a great time to take on 1 or 2 of these clients. And we'll get to kind of income in a minute. So photo organizing, I keep saying this, is connected to photography in so many ways. And I'm still a photographer, so I haven't transitioned. I still love my photography. And I love to stress this, you guys. Your first clients are your photography clients, okay? Let's see if I can get this to advance. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I think I had one more. Oh no, maybe. So I pulled together some sample clients for you guys, just so you can see like who are these people. So client one, she's the mother of a current photography client of mine, right? Like I think I've photographed her daughter's family like 5 times. And I guess she's always on my email, I don't know, because we didn't have a lot of talk really. She's made an order once or twice, but she is on our newsletter list, which we're not that organized. I mean, we send out a newsletter whenever it's kind of once a quarter, that kind of thing. She has all these pictures. And so her goal was she had like, I'm not kidding when I tell you she had an entire room off of her garage full wall to ceiling with boxes of prints and albums and stuff. She wanted all that digitized, all the history of her winery digitized because they're coming up with a book. And then she wants us to create a digital photo library. Okay. And she opted for our annual image management option. So her job revenue to date was $32,000, right? I mean, it's a lot of time, and she's doing her annual image management. Well, that was a surprise, right? Here's another surprise that came right out of my client. So this woman, she's only used me twice as a photographer, twice. I was too expensive for me to photograph. She's a single mom and she runs a big company downtown. And she was like, I'm too expensive to photograph her family, but she stayed on my email list. She's also organized her pictures very well. Her goal was to build a cohesive photo library so she can enhance her search and organizational features. She wanted to enable her to continue organizing on her own. Job revenue to date is $18,000. I was too expensive as a photographer. I kind of get goosebumps about that. I mean, that was a real surprise, real sleeper. I had no idea. She also is doing annual image management with us. Okay. And if you have a question about that, just put it in the chat. I can explain it later. Michelle, whose stuff you'll see in the back, who I just talked about her, I just saw a bunch of naked photos of her. She's hired me every year to do her family. I've not once mentioned photo organizing. I mean, I didn't, she's super organized. She's a concierge doctor. She has a bunch of boys and stepsons. And anyway, she literally emailed me 3 weeks ago and said, I have this cabinet of photos and it's just bugging me. I just want it handled. I said, okay, we can handle you. The revenue to date is 10 grand. Okay. What we're doing here is time, right? We're charging our time. Okay. Last but not least, this is not one of my photo clients. Okay. Because I don't want you to be like, whoa, these jobs are crazy. Last but not least, we got a referral from a home organizer. Great alliance to make. Okay. This home organizer is pretty sharp. She was referred to us by this home organizer. Her brother recently passed away. She had a family album and a bunch of prints that she wanted preserved because they have a pretty well-known Seattle family. But, one album and a bunch of prints. Job revenue, $2,600. Okay, $2,600. Again, we'll get to this, but I really just wanted you guys to get a taste of the types of clients that I have. And I want you to understand that they're not all like $10,000 clients, right? I mean, it's people who walk in off the door, but it's still, up in the close to 1,000 or up, right? So, and it's time. Okay, so lastly, I kind of collect this as info, you guys. I'm like, why did you become a photographer? Okay, I became a photographer because I wanted to tell stories that made a difference in the world, right? That challenged society's definition of beauty and blah, 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 right? Like it just reached into my heart and pulled at me. And I thought, what, this is what I gotta do. Some people, they want to capture special moments between people, think weddings, elopements, to tell the story of a special time, events. because you love people. You wanted to connect with your work. A lot of people has started photography because they felt like soulless in whatever job they were doing, and it was fulfilling. Flexible work hours. We see a lot of moms going into portrait photography in my business because it's flexible. You can drop the kids off, go do some shoots, or do them on a weekend when somebody else can look at you after your children. And it was easy, right? Barrier to entry is kind of low. So this is where I'm asking you guys, why did you guys become a photographer? I'm just really curious why. So if you have a second and you want to drop it in the chat, that would be awesome for me, just to continue my little research here. Okay, so I'm stressing this. It's going to sound like I'm a broken record, but your clients are your best customers because they know and they trust you. And when you're handing over like this big mess of stuff, you're like, oh, you want to make sure it's in good hands because you don't want it to get lost or damaged or, who knows what, right? So, okay, so where I'm going with this is like, I thought about this and Kathy and I were talking about this, and I was like, we have to put something together to help photographers, right? Like photographers right now, I was just Facebooking with a really well-known photographer in the Seattle area this morning, actually. And she was like, people are emailing me offline. Their bookings are way down. People are worried, and I said, hey, take a look at this. I'm still a photographer. That's still my identity, but take a look at this because this is something that we want others to learn. So you guys can, it's such an easy 3-part course. We purposefully made it like really cheap because, and tonight, I guess it's $149 until tonight, then it goes up, but because I want you guys to do this, because I think this is such an amazing thing for you. Okay. So this is just what it looks like when you go to a link. Can one of you guys, Kathy or Isabel, just drop that link in the chat just so people have access to it. So I designed this, you guys, because I didn't know about Kathy 5 years ago, and I had to figure this out on my own. And I made a bunch of mistakes. I'm not kidding you. And they were not cheap mistakes. Like I tried one software and that was like not good. And then I tried another more expensive software that photographers may know. And I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to dog anybody, but it was just not good. And it was super expensive. And then I was like, I found a software that's awesome, which I recommend, is called Mileo. And we can put that in the chat later. It's also in the course, and I, hired the wrong person and did all these things, like didn't have like worksheets for onboarding and offboarding. And so in the past 5 years, we've really gotten our, beep together, right? We've got it down, and I think it's going to be good for you guys too. All right. So what's included in this is it's a 3-part course. It's designed to talk about the business side of photography. The photo managers is all about like, how do you organize stuff? I'm assuming you guys have some idea about that, and there's already kind of an intelligence in photographers about how to organize pictures, right? How to cull pictures. So there's 10 tips for getting set up, right? And that talks about the software. And let me tell you guys, a lot of the software has all this stuff built in. You can hit dedupe on the software and it's done, right? You can hit search for screenshots on my favorite software. It's done. You can start training it to recognize faces, and it's done. So those of you guys who've been photographers like a long time, like me, and you're just like, oh my God, I have to manually do all this. Solutions are out there, and it's really great, especially if you're familiar with Lightroom and some of the Adobe products. You're going to just run with this. Part 2 is marketing. My main marketing thing is start with your big clients, but I threw a lot of other ideas in there that I didn't even think about. And then I started to kind of think about, and so I thought, well, that'll be helpful. And then part 3 is kind of the biggest thing for photographers, probably the most boring too, but it's a deep dive into pricing. Pricing, photo organizing, I found is way different than portrait photography, okay? It is an hourly based work, and you have to have an hourly based fee. Do you tell them that hourly based fee? This class will talk about that. Maybe not, right? So we think about that, okay? This class also talks about all this boring stuff like time tracking and all this kind of stuff, but it's critical for you guys to have this. It also helps you work out your number that so you can figure out what it costs you to do run your business, and then you can figure out what your hourly can be. Okay. Super helpful. This is something that, I did with my business advisor years ago. And then when I ran into photo organizing, I was like, oh my God, this is totally different. How do we can't just say photo session price is $1,500. We know that's only 6 hours of my life, right? With this, we're like, oh God, this is, can you see behind me? Like this is 25 photo albums that we don't know what happens when we open them up. Okay. What we also put in here is all my onboarding and my offboarding worksheets. Why not? It's not rocket science, but don't reinvent it. It's like we have a bunch of different forms that when we go pick up stuff, and we have a bunch of different forms that we give them when we drop off stuff. It's to cover our butts, right? We want to cover your butt. Real world story. I had a client say to me, we picked up, the one actually who had all the stuff in her garage, right? We picked up all her stuff. It literally filled up my car. And we came back, and I would say a couple months later, she's like, "You have my wedding albums?" And we're like, "Nope, we do not." She's like, a couple weeks later, "I'm looking for my wedding albums. I'm pretty sure you have them." No, we do not have your wedding albums. We are 100% sure because we photographed everything we have, and we didn't have them. And truth, we did not have them. And she found them, and now she wants us to digitize it. Okay, so there you go. Cover your butts. Also, I included some contract wording like confidentiality stuff, force majeure. I don't know how to say that. Things like that, just that I want you to have, just to make sure you're cut. I'm going to be on Facebook, I guess, quarterly. We don't know the dates yet, but I'm sure we'll talk after this. So if you have questions, bring it. All right. And, I feel like I wanted this class to be for you guys, something that you could do in 2 hours. Okay. Because who has time? Not me. I have a baby, 9-year-old, and 2 businesses that you can do in 2 hours. And when you get to the end of it, when you walk out through the tunnel and you walk out into the light, you're like, you've got a plan. Okay. And you can just start doing it. And you've got you can save yourself the learning curve and the expense. Actually, I also include scanner ideas. So that's something, because I bought a bunch of stupid scanners and now I don't use them. And the photo managers, I didn't know they were there. I wish I did, but I did not. So they're also there as a resource for you. So here comes down to like, why does this matter? Right? Why does all this matter? And, I thought a lot about this because I think it's really important to understand the why of all this, because there's so many photos being created and there's a lot of emotional and financial investment from the people who are trusting you. And it's individuals, it's families, and it's businesses. Businesses have a big budget for images, right? And video, right? And if they lose this stuff or they can't find it, families have lost their memories and their legacy and their story, right? There's lots of data talking about kids that have photos on the wall, their self-esteem and their pride and their families, and businesses have a story too. I have a story, my business, I'm kind of getting goosebumps. It's a little bit weird. But it's gone, right? Like if it's like the University of Washington Department of Global Health, like pictures were on everybody's computer. They weren't centralized. Like so-and-so professor would go to Namibia and come back and they would live there. And then somebody else would be in China. And so we didn't have a centralized system. Okay. So we did that. And that was years ago that I did that. So I guess I just feel like the other thing to think about is with all this extreme weather, these photographs and digital photo collections are at risk from fires, floods, and earthquakes, technology upgrades, crashes, shifting file formats. I mean, my computer can't open a floppy disk, and if there's no organization or backup, they're gone. And people don't know how to do this. There's no training for this, right? And you guys have it. So this is like my favorite picture, because sometimes I think, especially in the portrait business, sometimes you're like, oh, why do I do this? And then I remember, if you don't think photos are important, wait until they're all you have left. And there's a picture of my dad, and he died about 2 years ago, this weekend, February 3rd, so tomorrow. So I just found that and I thought, you know what? That's one of my favorite pictures of that. So, but I'm not going to leave that as my last picture because then I'll get teary-eyed. So that is kind of my chat for you guys. And it looks like, I'm looking at the chat now, it looks like there's a bunch of questions. Should I open up the chat, Isabel? Or?
Yep. Isabel will read through the question. And did you do the price? Because
yeah, I did. It's like $199.
Yeah,
Did you?
with 50.
It's $50 off.
I mean, it's such a good deal. I do have to say that, you know, when Jennifer and I, we've created many courses at the Photo Managers. You can go to the Photo Managers Academy and see we have, I don't even know, 20, 25 different courses. And for what Jennifer gives in terms of shortening your learning curve, it's pretty substantial. I think, you know, and you did it in 2 hours, but it's really rich material and you'll make your money back. Well, one client and you'll double, you know, you probably pay for your scanner or whatever.
Kathy and
Let's go. Great job. And I love you know, you speak so clearly, Jennifer, to the heart of it is. And a couple of people said, I'm not a professional photographer. And I think this is relevant regardless, because it's really, if you care about photos, which most people do, and you can learn the how-tos, but the why is really what anchors us. So Isabel, let Isabel go ahead and ask you the question.
Should I stop my share? I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I think that's always good because it's more fun to see you in real life.
Yeah. Got it.
All right. So the first question is, do you have any stories to share about working with corporate clients or universities?
Yeah, so I worked with the Department of Global Health at the University of Washington. And so the communications person brought me on to consolidate all their images. And this was 8 or 9 years ago. And it's a big project because you're dealing with all the people who have photos on their computer, and they're often busy professors, chairs, deans, things like that. So, but they're starting to realize the need for it. So I think it's an untapped market for photo organizers for sure, especially if you have a connection, you know, like if you know the communications manager, that person is going bananas because every newsletter she has to put out, that was my connection with the communications person, because she has to go ask all these people.
And for those of you that are professional photographers or maybe been in the business there, if you know Peter Crow, I just put he's famous for the DAM book or the 3-2-1 backup. He's actually speaking at our conference in Columbus, and we also do it virtually, but on how do you reach universities, nonprofits, and small businesses, because he is has been building a product called MediaGraph. I just put a link in there. It's a pretty robust DAM digital asset management software geared specifically for that audience. And he just reached out to us. They just came back he had a booth at like it's the Private Universities Association. I mean, who know, you know, there's all these things out there. And he said the demand is overwhelming. These universities and nonprofits are looking for somebody to come in and do that digital. They don't have the budget to bring a staff person on. So your really large universities and libraries have staff for that. But all these middle tier and lower private schools, private high schools, they don't have the budget for that, but they do have the budget, and they know that they have to get those assets digitized. So anyway, Jennifer, I think he's going to do a whole workshop on who do you reach, what is the message that you give them, and how do you charge yourself, and how do you get the business. But so there you go.
And I don't think you have to be a photographer to benefit from this at all. I target it towards photographers. I mean, if you're organized and you organize your own images at home, well, you're just disqualified, you know? I mean, some photographers are not organized. I just feel that there's a lot of photographers out there who need additional revenue streams and are organized and have their images, you know, and their systems set up. And they're also trained at culling. I mean, they can do that really quickly too, right? So.
And more of a logistics question. Is the course a live event or is it a self-paced asynchronous course?
Oh, it's self-paced. Yeah.
It's self-paced and you do get lifetime access. So no rush in going through it, and you can always refer back to it later.
And then Jennifer will do the quarterly, I think it was quarterly or twice a year live Q&A. So we always feel like that's, you know, when you buy a course and you don't ever get to it, or you get to it and you have questions, it's nice to have a chance to do a Zoom meeting like this and where you can pick Jennifer's brain. So that's part of the value of the course as well.
And how do they find out about the Q&As? Or is it going to be in an email? I mean, I'll post it on Signature Photo Organizing's stuff.
Yeah, well, when people
personal
purchase it, we get your email and then we'll send a reminder. We do this for courses,
yeah,
so
yeah. Okay,
you'll
gotcha.
get more than one reminder email.
Got it.
Regarding the large sort of corporate jobs or projects, do you do them yourself or do you hire a staff to help you with those?
So I specialize in individuals. I did universities for a while, but now I'm all individuals. So back then it was just me. Now I have a team. So there's two of us, and we're going to be bringing on one more person.
And at what point did you create a separate business from your photography business? Do you think that a photographer branching out into photo organizing should create a separate business from the beginning or add it to the services offered under their photo business?
That's a good question, actually. So at the very beginning, I think of it in terms of like QuickBooks terms, like classes. I don't know if that matters or if that resonates with anyone, but like at the beginning, I just like the first year I did it, I was like, this is a one-off, you know, I'm just not gonna. But then as the jobs started to snowball, I have an LLC, right? And then under the LLC, I have two DB doing business as Jennifer Loomis Photography, Signature Photo Organizing. And then what I really was tracking and why I'm talking about classes is I wanted to track the income so that I could see, like, I could make educated decisions, right? So am I actually making any money here or am I just like working all the time? And what I found out just this year is photo organizing and photography are neck and neck, 6 figures each. That was for 2023 because I just talked to my accountant, which was a shock because I thought I had not checked it because I was in really crazy times because I have a kid. And I checked it because I was trying to figure out, calculate year-end taxes and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I had told my accountant, yeah, I don't know, I think 2023 is not going to be a great year because blah, blah, blah. But I was wrong. So I would say at the very beginning, if it's a long road that you want to take, separate out the income. But I don't think you need a brand new business. I think you can have an LLC umbrella and then 2 DBAs. I would talk to your accountant about that. That was my accountant's advice. Maybe your accountant has different advice, but what your information you're trying to kind of extract is what's the health of the business, right? What's your gross revenue? What are your expenses? What is your net?
We have several photographers in our community that, like Jennifer, that do both. And some of them have chosen to separate them and some of them are keeping them together. And regardless of which way they go, they've been very successful. I know Kathy included several links to some of those websites of other members that do both.
I mean, I have 2 separate brands, just to be clear. Like I have Signature Photo Organizing and I have Jennifer Loomis Photography. When I first started out, I put like a landing page on Jennifer Loomis Photography. It's still there actually. But when it became clear that it had its own identity and its own traction, then I built a second site.
And you said that your income is neck and neck between the businesses. Is the workload 50-50?
I mean, I do all the photography and then my studio manager handles all the prints and albums and framing and stuff like that. I would say it just depends. I mean, because she does most of the digital organizing. I do most of the, like, I'm kind of the front of the arrow on the whole photo organizing thing. And so I work with a lot of the clients and help onboard and offboard. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like some days, some weeks, photo organizing is a lot more for me. Like this week, I have to write 3 proposals and Next week I'm going to be working on a bunch of photo stuff. So yeah, maybe. I mean, if I did better job at time tracking, which I'm recommending you do, I'd probably know that.
Do you offer a concrete turnaround time when you onboard a new client? How do you determine the turnaround time?
We offer a range, definitely, and that's covered in the class. We offer a range, and there's a whole host of variables that impact that range. Number one is client communication, like are they getting back to us? So we give them a range. And
I
then
was gonna say, good thing, good news on that too, for the most part, unless it's a special event or a special occasion like a wedding or an anniversary or a memorial service or things like that. Most people, the photos haven't been organized or curated in any order at this point. And so my experience has been with many of our members too, that, a lot of our members have waiting lists, okay, I can't take your project till June. I need a deposit. Oh, okay, fine. As long as it's going to get done eventually, June is a fine start date. So it's a little less where I'm sure professional photography, like, you have a portrait session, they want those portrait photos taken at a certain date. But do you find that, Jennifer, there's somewhat of a lead way?
yeah, I mean, I feel sometimes it's frustrating because I feel like the biggest, like once they hand everything off to us, it kind of relieves them of the aggravation and the fear. And then there's less then we have to say, I mean, you guys need to get back to us. We found that we had to start charging for image storage, or these people would think, oh, well, I don't need to get back to her because now I don't have to worry about it. They're at her house or her studio. And so, yeah, I would say for a lot of our clients, yeah, they don't have super hard deadlines.
Oh, okay. I think Isabel's income. Let's see. Let's see. What kind of liability do you carry? Can you get a coverage to protect loss of clients' family photos?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You've got like,
I have an answer on that too. If you don't, I don't know
yeah,
what
you go for that because I've talked to my insurance agent about that and also about all my personal work. And so that's why we recommend backing it up. But yeah.
Well, first of all, so from a liability insurance, you want good business insurance, but photos
Yeah.
are considered priceless, so you can't really put a dollar value on it. So the way most of our members, it's really, and I'm sure Jennifer covers this in her contract. It's in the contract, that I am not liable for losing these photos. And I've been doing this, and supporting over 700 professional members worldwide for, 11, 12 years. And I've never gotten a message yet that anybody has lost their clients' photos, even during some of the fires in LA, and then some of the flooding in, I remember down in New Orleans. I remember members would post on our private Facebook group, their cars loaded up with their clients' photos, and then they're sending photos to their clients. I'm taking your photos with me, and the clients were so relieved, So it has not been an issue, but you do have to make sure that, so you're covered with your business liability insurance in terms of like regular loss and things, but you can't put a dollar value on a value of a photo. So.
And so like for my professional work, which is now I used to do only film. So we digitized all the film, and now we have the 3-2-1 backup. We have 3 backups, 2 locations, and 1 in the cloud. And for all of our incoming photo organizing clients, we do the same thing. We just have a separate server. And so we tell them, we make a partition on our server and then dump all their stuff there and all their scanning stuff, whatever. And then that has redundancy built in. So that's part of what they're paying us for.
And it's probably better than what other photos were
Oh,
on their own, because they probably weren't backing them up, and they probably were having them in basements or,
yeah.
So Stephanie says, if a new client has no idea where to start, how do you guide them to the best way to organize? Do you have a set categories you use or a structure that you're able to repeat with each client?
So it comes down, I talk about this in the course. It comes down to what's their goal, right? Like it really varies by client, like that client who just had that one album because her brother died, or, some clients, they don't care about the digital or the analog stuff, and they just want to work at the digital, get that organized because they're like, oh, some clients, they want that analog stuff, which is prints, albums, all that kind of stuff, totally handled, and then get to the digital stuff. It's so different by client, which makes it really interesting work. Because once I get what their goal is, then I can help them prioritize.
Yeah. And most clients don't know. We have I'm sure you have that built in the course too, but we have a great onboarding sheet that we provide as part of like the photo manager, because I always tell people nobody joins the photo managers because they were a photo organizer, because there was no such thing. It's like, this is like a business. There was no such thing as professional coaches. There were no such thing as professional, athletic coaches, or personal trainers, right? We didn't, like, can you imagine your parents or going to a personal trainer? It didn't exist. This is one of those examples of a business that it's because there wasn't a need for it. And now there's a huge need, and it is exploding, like Jennifer said. And so we see it all the time again. And so really it's a matter of helping the client make those decisions in terms of, and then we talk a lot about when we talk with clients, and Jennifer, I'm sure you too, I always say a lot of times people think things have to be organized in chronological date order. And it's great if you have digital photos, because then, we have those are date time stamped and things like that. But I always say we take photos in chronological order. Today, we're having this webinar, and it happens to be Wednesday or Thursday. I'm losing track of dates. It's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. But we think thematically, right? So the photos that when you look at a client's photo collection, oh my gosh, obviously you're a family that love to travel. You love to go to, if you're in New England, maybe you went to Cape Cod, or they went to, a cottage in Maine every summer, the 4th of July, and you can start to help people realize it's much more interesting visually to remember those photos around themes than it is always around, here's like 1974, or here's 1975, right? It's a much more interesting process that you can help a client think differently about their photos.
And, for photo organizing digitals, remember the metadata that is now embedded in a lot of these photos is incredible. Like, our software has a map, and any iPhone picture, like you go to the map view and it's like, oh, wow, this person went all over the world, it's pretty.
And what's amazing is now what we're doing is you're merging their analog collection with their digital collection. Most people have it's compartmentalized, right? They have their old analog, albums and things like that, and they have their digital photos. What you're doing is combining them. So like for me, if I wanted to right now pull up on my phone pictures of my son when he was first born in 1993, there was no, I remember going to the 1 hour photo lab and mailing the photographs from Texas to my family members so they could see pictures of him as a baby. That wasn't that long ago. He's only 30. So I think it's really, so now merging those collections together is a big part of this process and of what brings great value to the client.
And I would add on that, you guys, like, our specialty is building these photo libraries, but eventually those analog images are all going to be scanned. I'm talking, 10 or 15 years. So be thinking, long term. The long tail here is once all those analog images and videos and reel to reels are scanned and digitized, they're still going to need a searchable library, right? So the course talks about that and talks about like looking at what kind of software you should use, like that's important. Software it's really getting there. We're working with the developers of this one company that we recommend because they're starting to work with photo organizers because they're realizing that there's a lot of people out there who their software is going to benefit.
Well, what Mileo is getting ready to launch too is you're going to be able to purchase Mileo as a subscription, and then you're also going to be able to purchase a 3-hour onboarding course with a professional photo manager that they are collecting the money and paying photo managers because the client.
We're one of those.
You're one of those onboarding yeah. So let's keep going there. To follow up, how do you handle storing clients' images? Do you rent storage?
No, I do not, but I do have a climate controlled dark room that what you see behind me is stuff that we've just brought in, stuff we're bringing off, but I've done that with photographs and negatives for years. So I have a dark climate controlled space where it's actually in my house where I store my own images. So because someone's always there, and I don't like storage spaces because they have sprinkler systems, they have things like that. But wherever we are, I try to keep them protected. But I've had other people that I've talked to who take storage spaces, and people had been living in them. They were smoking, fire broke out, sprinklers went off. So we put everything in watertight bins so that they're protected. But yeah, that's a good question, but I'm wary of storage.
And Julie asks, are you using Lightroom and Mileo together or one or the other?
Mileo, 100% Mileo. 100%. We struggled. I mean, Lightroom's great. I use it for my professional photography business, but I don't need to have multiple seats at the table with Lightroom. It's just me. With Mileo, I can have multiple seats in multiple locations, so it works really well.
Yeah, and that's what Chloe asked. And I know Mileo is getting ready to launch this in the next few weeks,
Yeah.
where you'll be able to have multiple clients under that. They've worked very closely with the photo managers. We have a whole team of focus group that's helping them develop this product for us. But do you utilize your own Mileo account for your clients and then make them spaces, or do you create their own accounts for them?
They all get their own accounts.
Let's see. Do you add photos from Mac into Mileo as well, or do you keep them separate?
Do I what?
Elena asked, do you add photos from Mac into Mileo as well, or do you keep them separate? I think you probably merge their iPhoto library into Mileo, right? Because, you know, you're bringing your photo.
Yeah. No, Mileo is kind of the conduit that brings all the photos together. And so you have to understand how Mileo works.
It's not cloud-based. Right.
So you just have to understand that. And then, you know, I should touch back on the storage. Like when I look for office space, I look, and I have an office for signature photography here. When I look for office space, I also look for a dark room that I can put the images in, right? So my previous office had this full-on dark room. It was climate controlled because it was in the shade. You know, you just want to be managing the extreme temperatures and the UV exposure, such as daylight.
And also I want to make sure that people think, you know, you walk before you run. So Jennifer didn't start with that, right? It's been a process too.
Yeah.
So, don't, you know, you don't have to, it's a beginning.
Yeah. Your
it's
first
one
client is going to be
step at a
like
time.
a bunch of bins right here, right? Like, and that's good, you know, because you need to see it.
The other thing that's fascinating about this business is you'll get clients with not only photos, but, you know, my son does this full time now, and he just got an amazing job of letters from World War II that were with lots of cutouts because they must have named the ship. And so went through, I forget what that's called, when they would send the letters home, and you could see somebody took an X-Acto knife and cut out all the little places where the ship must have been identified. So the family had him scan all those photos, as well those letters. So it wasn't photos that he was doing for this family. He was actually scanning letters from World War II for this family member. So it's not, you'll find kids' artwork. You're going to find lots of home movies, video, you know, VCR tapes, camcorders, 8mm film. That's a whole nother piece of the puzzle, because usually in the boxes of photos are all those other things: baby's first steps, you know, maybe the outfit your baby wore home from the hospital, letters from your grandparents that you never threw away, right? So you should think definitely big picture here, right, Jennifer? You're not, when we say photos, that's a piece of the puzzle, but you're uncovering.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure
you get documents. This one client who's back here, she's got ornaments. She's got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of people and you could photograph, you know, in some ways, you know, using a light box, you can photograph the tea sets or the ornaments and things like that. So especially for people that are looking to downsize, they don't have to get rid of everything. You know, it's hard to say no and let go of things. And this way here, if you create a photo book, maybe maybe they collected keepsake items and things like that, you can photograph that.
And for photographers, I mean, it's camera scanning all the way, right? Like you've got the camera, it's just got to be 24 megapixels minimum. You know, you've got the camera, you just spend a couple $100 getting a camera stand and lights, and you're ready to roll. That's perfect for albums. You tether it to your computer, you know, you're just bing, 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 bing. I mean, depending on, you know, spectral highlights and all that kind of stuff, but yeah.
All right. I don't see any other questions that people have. Again, you know, the course is $199. It's $50 off as a new launch special. We designed the course. You know, Jennifer said, I've known for years that professional photographers were a natural audience, and we just needed a kind of an influencer like Jennifer who really understood the market. So it was perfect timing when we met and kind of came up with this idea about creating a course that could be a turnkey course where you can really easily take her course for $150 tonight and you can have your first client, within a week and pay back that course and start adding some revenue to your business. There's an
I mean,
opportunity
you
within
could
there to
be
become a member of
talking
the
to
photo
people.
managers, but what's that?
Yeah. You just start talking about this. And, if you're on a parents group or something, be
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this and, introductory, whatever. And all these moms are like, yes, so.
And then presentations at local libraries, historical centers. I'm doing a presentation with my son, and I go to a floating. I like to float with like a float tank, and it's called Ignite. It's a really cool place in Avon, Connecticut, and my son and I are doing a photo. She likes to bring in different topics around organizing and things, and we're doing like tame your photo chaos, and we're going to be doing an hour presentation. She's sending it out to her entire list. We'll be there talking about the service we do, guarantee business. Another thing my son set up is at another local gym in our community. He has a drop-off box for your home movies, and they're promoting it. Bring your home movies to Ignite Fitness, and he has like baggies in there and a form, and people are dropping. He's getting people walking in and they're dropping off their things, because a lot of people don't want to mail this stuff, their things away. They want that personal touch, and I think that's another big. So these are just some marketing ideas about getting the word out there. So again, it's $50 off again through tonight. And if we don't have any more questions, we can, Jennifer, you did a great job. This will be recorded. We'll post it up on YouTube. We'll send you the recording. We'd love to welcome you to Jennifer's course. We are an international organization. We do have members all over the world. I think we have 3 or 4 members recently in Germany, but we've added, just from the photo manager perspective, so we've added 25 new professional members in January alone, and a 50 in something called photo managers in training. So it is growing, and there is no competition.
And you guys, you can also train people. Like, we just got a big job coming in from Glasgow. Like, I'm like, what? I'm WhatsApping with this woman in Glasgow, to like.
My son just got a big job from Puerto Rico. They mailed him 6 huge boxes. I think it was a $5,000 job.
Fascinating. It's fascinating, and I'm also really good at culling. I'll be like, no, we're not, no landscapes. Sorry, we're not doing landscapes. We're not doing flowers, like, save your money, so that's also photographer. You're going to say, like, you don't have to go through every single print, but you can look at the albums and be like, skip this one, the bar mitzvah. Yeah, let's do that one. Your wedding, you're now divorced. Let's not do that one,
Well, Julie said, great presentation. Love your communication style. Thank you, everybody. Any
Great. Thank
questions, you can send it to us at support. Thank you so much. Super interesting all around the world. Thank you for all you've shared today, Jennifer from Lori. So great job today, Jennifer. Yes. Thank you so much for all your attention. We appreciate it. We know we're in a busy world. It's hard to get people's attention. Stephanie said, really great. So we're excited and passionate, and rising tide lifts all boats. So we're in this together. Everybody learns together. There's no competition. We're collaborative, not competitive. And at the end of the day, we're serving the client's needs, and we're making a difference. Like Jen, I love the fact that you keep that why at the heart of what you do. And that's really what matters. It's meaningful work. And one last story on my own is my mom. I've been doing this for so long, but my mom is 93 and her memory is really just very quickly deteriorating. And she's frustrated. She keeps like yelling at people. I was the director of the American Cancer Society, which she never said before, but now we're going to go in her assisted living. We're going to put photos of her as a younger person. We're going to put a list of who she was, so that when the aides go in, they know who she was as a human being. That's part of what photos do and how they connect people with. That's how we connect. So that's a personal story when I'm actually finally putting into practice something I've talked about for years, but I didn't have a mom with dementia, with growing a dementia. But that's a whole nother market where there's a huge need to give people dignity by proving that they were a real person and not kind of this crazy person who's yelling at everybody, which is exhausting if you've ever cared for an aging parent. So, all right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hope we sell lots of courses and we'll look forward to supporting your businesses. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kathy.